Anxiety can't survive when you do this. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to overcome anxiety naturally, like I did. I had anxiety for 3 to 4 years. Now it's been like 7 or 8 years or something since I've been anxiety free. So I'm just sharing with you in this video how you can overcome anxiety and how to implement the right approach to anxiety recovery, which doesn't require actually like years of therapy or even medication necessarily. This is not medical advice, just talking from personal experience. So let's dive right into this video. When I had anxiety back in the day, there was no videos like this, no information. I was feeling completely lost and confused about how can I actually recover? What can I do to get better? I went to a doctor back in the day when I lived in Scotland, to a GP who said, Andy, you might have anxiety, or you'll probably have anxiety for the rest of your life. You can only manage it. You can take some medication and maybe try therapy or something, but that's it. I was kind of told that I can't get better, that this is me now and I have to live with it for the rest of my life. That was the paradigm. And I think it still is the paradigm to some extent today. And what I came to realize, I then took those pills for a few days. They were not even like anxiety medication. They were actually just like heart pressure reducing pills, which was even weirder to me. And I just took those for a few days. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this, man. I'm not going to take pills for the rest of my life. And I'm not going to be a victim to the circumstance. I was like, I'm going to find a way. I felt fine before anxiety, so there must be a way to get better and to feel fine again. For some reason, I had this belief, this intuition that there must be a way. And that started my journey of reading hundreds of books, like obsessively, reading different books, watching videos, podcasts, and desperately finding for a solution. There was no videos like this, it was out there. I was Googling symptoms like crazy. Oh, maybe you have this, maybe you have that. I had blurry vision, heart palpitation, panic attacks, anxiety, 24/7, generalized anxiety, OCD, music playing in my head, called musical OCD, craziest symptoms. Even just going to the supermarket was like the most challenging experience for me. I was like freaking out going to the supermarket, and I was just a wreck, like pretty much my life disintegrated. I hit rock bottom, and it didn't come out of nowhere, right? I think it came from smoking too much weed and suppressing certain issues from my life. My mom passing away when I was a teenager and me never handling that well. And I think just like smoking weed and stress of life accumulating to leading towards a panic attack one day on holiday in Egypt. I was heavily drinking. Yeah, too much alcohol drinking as well, partying. I just think living unhealthy, right? And then boom, anxiety coming into my life. Seemingly out of nowhere. Lots of people that smoke weed get anxiety. So that can be a common cause. Either way, what I found on my journey is that you don't need to find the root cause. Some people believe, I even studied hypnotherapy, like I even have a certification in that healing modality, but just out of curiosity, I even did some sessions, got powerful results with people. But I found for anxiety recovery and even healing in general, you don't necessarily need to find the root cause. It can actually block healing, because then you have, like Carl Jung called this the shadow, and the popular phrase is shadow work or inner work, like where you dive into the subconscious and you look at where it's coming from, maybe in a hypnotic state where you regress to the past, to a causative event or multiple causative event, and then to attempt to heal those things, which can be quite powerful, but it can also be an obstacle if you think you have to do all this endless inner work, and, it can also bring up the stuff in a way. So while sure, that can be beneficial, and if you feel called to do that, definitely do that. Always follow your intuition. You are your own guide, my friend. You are your own guru, if you will. Nobody out there is going to fix it for you. In the end, you have to do it. You can get guidance, insights, but in the end, your intuition is your most powerful asset and resource. And for example, my intuition led me to studying the Wim Hof method, going into freezing water. When I had anxiety, I went all into the Wim Hof method, breathing, intense breath work, ice bathing. We went 20 minutes in a frozen lake. I went full extreme, man. I used that suffering as a motivation, that pain as a motivation to propel myself forward, which is what I would recommend. You have this anxiety, maybe depression, you're like, okay, I don't want to feel like this. For me, I had the suicidal thoughts. I was like, I don't want to feel like this for the rest of my life. I don't want to be like this forever, because if it stays like this forever, then what is the point, right? And so I used that intense suffering as a motivation. And in a way, you can see suffering as a blessing, because if everything is just going normal, there's no reason to change anything, right? So suffering can be one of the deepest transformational things that come into our life if we choose to view it from that perspective, and if we choose to use it as fuel and motivation to propel ourselves in a new direction, to maybe begin to read books, maybe begin to study, watch things we haven't entertained before, maybe get into spirituality, whatever it is for you, right? Like, to look into healthier eating and to try new things, maybe leave the comfort zone, approach strangers on the street, face social anxiety. If you're a guy, maybe approaching girls on the street, whatever like you can do to overcome anxiety. And it's funny, like I've been single now since December, and I'm finding myself right now getting into like just for fun as well to challenge myself a bit, like approaching girls on the street. So like literally walking up to a stranger and saying like, "Hey, sorry, I just had to say hi because thought you look kind of interesting. My name's Andy, blah, blah, blah." I've been avoiding that like crazy. I know what to do. I did it actually when I used to have anxiety. I got into that just like talking to people in public, just to face my social anxiety. Now I feel when I do this, I feel this like block, this anxiety about it. So I'm like, okay, I can now more empathize again with anxiety because I'm like, I tried 2 times to do it. I went to the city center. I didn't do it. I just avoided it, But now, next time, I'm sure I get even closer and I'll do it. And that's how you actually grow, overcome anxiety with tiny baby steps, little steps that you can take to move yourself forward on a daily basis to face that fear. Most people with anxiety, they're living in the comfort zone. They're avoiding certain things due to the anxiety, which reinforces the anxiety. The way to change your self-image or identity is either through inner action or outer action. Inner action could be things like meditation, visualization, morning routines, affirmations, these personal development techniques. And outer game is like you take an action. So you want both, like the inner and the outer game. So the outer game is just like literally acting from that version of yourself that is anxiety free, that ideal version of yourself, And if you think about quantum physics, like quantum physics kind of almost states that there's maybe an infinite number of parallel universes of yourself, So maybe there's even a version of you in a parallel universe that is living your best life, and you can connect with them and think about like what would they do, that version of you that is a badass, that has the life you want, that is taking action. Like, would they avoid this thing due to the anxiety? No, they wouldn't. So you just go and do it anyway. And like I'm kind of alluding with my personal example there of me trying to approach strangers or girls on the street even now, like, because I haven't done it in a long time because I was in a relationship. So I was like, it's an imperfect process. You see, I went 2 times to the city center to attempt to do an approach, but fear blocked me. I felt blocked and limited, and it felt kind of awkward, actually. I was like, in my head, I was like, fuck, it's going to be so weird. They're going to think I'm weird or something or whatever. And so I didn't do it. But next time I'll just do it, And so you just keep pushing yourself a little bit, until you get enough and you're just like, okay, I'm going to go for it. And even if you fail, whatever, you just showed up, and that's what's required. So with anxiety, it's very important to face your fears, to live as though you're anxiety free as best as you can, imperfectly. There can be setbacks. There will be times when you chicken out or whatever, many times even. But as long as you have that intention and you're kind of like moving in that direction and you're taking action outside of your comfort zone consistently, imperfectly, not always, but regularly, if that makes sense, then your subconscious mind is changing and adopting to this new identity. And the most important thing, this is like the outer game, is actually the inner game as well, which means most people with anxiety, they're resisting the anxiety. And Carl Jung said, what you resist persists and may even grow in size. So most people with anxiety, they're fighting the anxiety. Paul David, in his book, At Last Alive, which I highly recommend, said, most people are beating the broken arm or leg and expecting it to heal. They're like, anxiety, resist, fight. How is that going to get better? It doesn't work that way. So that's kind of like the Eastern philosophy side of things, the spiritual insight of acceptance, surrender, letting go, allowing, welcoming, just no longer fighting the anxiety, accepting it, kind of like this martial arts principle of welcoming, allowing, and not fighting, because the fight is the fuel. And it's very contrary to what we've been taught and conditioned, especially if you're guys like, oh, don't have any emotions, can't feel this, push it down. And then what happens? Boom, it explodes into an anxiety, panic, So what's very important is to practice acceptance. Emotion is energy in motion, and it just wants to be felt so that it can leave the body. And feeling is healing. So when you are feeling it, you are healing it. Okay, so acceptance while keeping yourself busy, accepting it in the background, not Googling, not resisting, not obsessing, and just going about your life, keeping yourself busy all the time, allowing anxiety to fade into the background. Accept it while it's there. Don't fight it. live as though you're anxiety free, and then it will become your reality. If you'd like to work with me, there's a link below to schedule a free discovery call. This is for coaching, to see if it's a good fit to work together. If you feel like you want me to be your personal coach on your side, guiding you through this process, I offer that as a service. And anyway, other than that, I'll see you in the next video, my friend. And yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, video ideas, any insights you got from this video. Let's connect in the comment section below. And other than that, have a great day and talk to you later. See you in the next video.